Well, as I say, I'm 77 now, and this is actually my 70th season as a City supporter. Through thick and thin, mostly thin, as we all know up here. But I think there's been lots of memories down the years, some great matches, some that we've won, some that we've lost. But I suppose one of the most important ones was the ones when we played Manchester United a few years ago, and I can remember flying up there with my nephews from Exeter Airport, and that was quite a day when we could have actually won that match, but it did save the club, so I suppose it's got quite some importance. But I think you always go back to your earliest memories, really, and as I said, my parents brought me back up here in 1946-47 season, which was the second season after the First World War, and my memories were really being sat on a wall at the corner of the big bank, and you've got an actual programme here, and there is a picture of that wall on there. And in those days, my parents brought me up, but latterly after that, unfortunately my father had to work Saturdays, so it was mostly my mother, and it was quite a different atmosphere in those days on that big bank. For example, opposing supporters used to mingle in with City supporters, and there wasn't any aggro that was you might have got today, and of course it was uncovered as always, exposed to all the weathers that we used to get 4 seasons in one afternoon usually, and but it was a good atmosphere, and I can remember Christmases up there, Christmas matches, when we actually people used to come along, the men used to bring their cigars, and you had that cigar smoke wafting over the big bank there, etc. And the big bank did get really full. You could, people used to tumble down towards the fence, and kids were passed down head high to get to the best views in the front. So in that first season there, some of the players in that team were, I can still remember them now, and there were people. Like we had a great centre half in Steve Walker, a good winger in George Wardle, and a famous bald-headed centre forward called Digger Ebden, and Ray Wright, Dougie Regan, and Angus Mackay were all people that I remember from those days. And Archie Smith, he was another one, and that the other thing in those days, I think it was the 50s. Mostly, there was this seagull that used to appear on match days. It seemed to be the same one all the time, and he got nicknamed Dido. You might have heard that mentioned before, but again, a famous part of City's history, I think. So over the years, as I say, we were up and down in the lower leagues and so forth, and that. I remember that first season in 46-47, the manager was called George Roughton, and he only lasted a few years, and after that there was a succession of various managers. But again, the ground didn't change really until about 1999, and we have pictures here of the old cowshed being knocked down, the cowshed with its famous grass bank in the front, where children used to get past and sat there. Wouldn't be allowed today, of course. And then eventually we got the new big bank stand in the year 2000 it was, and people really were sorry when the old cowshed went, but I remember it wasn't all that safe inside, and there was rickety old sleepers. There's the sort of terracing in there, and the toilets weren't up to much either. I seem to remember that. So as I say, I've been coming ever since, and I'm now part of the Senior Reds supporters group, and that is growing, and we have various ex-players come along and speak to us. Well, as I said before, I think the main thing is the change from away supporters being able to mingle with the home supporters like we did on the big bank over there, and it was just sort of, you know, cheerful banter and leg pulling and so forth, and that. There was no obscene calls, shouts, etc., and that, no fights. And it was only in later years that I seem to remember that things got worse. I can remember one cup tie against Wolverhampton, I think it was, and when the Wolverhampton fans behind the goal actually pushed down the fencing and tried to get on the pitch. In those days too, the players, obviously they're in the same dressing rooms as they are now, but they used to leave behind the grandstand on the other side there, and we as kids used to go around there collecting autographs as they left the ground, and the away team coach would park outside behind that grandstand and we'd get them there. But another memory is, of course, this where we are now, this part of the ground used to be St James's Girls' School, and my sister attended St James's Girls' School, and I think it was in the days when the city actually trained on the pitch here. They didn't have a separate training pitch, and my sister recalls that very often balls were kicked into the girls' school playground, so that the city players used to have to come in and fetch them as a way of meeting some of the girls. I think that was according to her. I don't think that would happen today. Okay.
Fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic.
Right.
And if you had one particular story, like or anecdote, that you like want to sum up your time here, what do you think that would be?
Well, I think there's, like I say, there's
You've been like 70 years.
So many coming here for 70 years. There's been a lot of, but I think coming, like I say, my father could hardly come because he had to work Saturday afternoon, and coming with him on some Saturdays was really special. And I can remember actually taking him to when City played against Tottenham Hotspur in the FA Cup, and I've actually got one of the tickets here for that date, and I'm trying to find the date of it. I think it was in the it was in the 80s, I think, and took my father to White Hart Lane, and that was a big occasion for him. So I think sharing those times with him, he couldn't come that often, always stood out for me as special occasions.
That's absolutely fantastic. Very nice.
Okay.
That's fantastic. And do you have any other sort of like memories that you want to get on cameras or anything sort of like?
I think, like I say, we've had some real characters as players here, and I think this match that we played against Manchester United in 1969, that was one of the standout matches, and I've got the actual programme here for the day, and who should be playing for Manchester United? Bobby Charlton, George Best, Dennis Law, Nobby Stiles. So that was a terrific, even though we didn't win, that was a terrific occasion for the City supporters on that day. But yes, as well as being a different atmosphere on that big bank too, it was in those days, fans and kids used to bring rattles and bells. And I can remember that we actually brought a bell that my parents had kept from the war. It was an actual, one of the war air raid warden bells, that ARP on it, I can see it now. So we used to lug this great bell up to the match, and of course now it wouldn't be allowed in the ground, or even a rattle, but I can remember the sound of those rattles going around, and that was mainly the noises of the big bank in those days.